Hey everybody, take a look at this. I have two identical model homes, this one and this one. They're both located in a Spanish Lakes community in Port St. Lucie, and ironically, they're just a few houses apart from each other. This one's at number 86 and this one's at 178. Yet, this particular house right here is listed as 1,416 square feet, and this one here is listed at 1,612 square feet. So which one is correct and why should this be important to you? Stick around for a few moments and I'll explain it in more detail.
Hi there everybody, it's Roy and Lily from 4-Star Homes.
Everybody.
Hey, today we're going to go ahead and excuse Lily from the video because she's cleaning up after Hurricane Ian here. So, you know, I'd really like to help you, honey, but somebody has to keep us in the lap of luxury here, so I'm going to go back to work.
Go.
All right.
So before I continue, folks, I just want to say thanks to everybody who was concerned about Lily and I during the Hurricane Ian that just passed through us. I'll give you a really quick update on this because the path that the National Weather Service said that this hurricane was supposed to follow didn't. What actually happened was, instead of going up the entire Florida coast and then turning inland, didn't happen. After it hit Fort Myers, it came inland and then took a direct course toward us. As a matter of fact, the eye of the storm was actually about 60 miles directly west of us before it started taking a northern turn. Fortunately, though, the wind speed was reduced down to a Category 1. Eventually just turned into a tropical storm, but we did get a lot of high winds here. It caught us off guard, obviously. We were without electric for about 15 hours, but we survived unscathed and there was minimal damage here to the park. So that's the story with Hurricane Ian and the Fort Pierce area. Anyhow, let's get back to the topic on hand, and that's talking about square footage of homes. So going back to the two houses at the beginning of the video, which one do you think was the correct square footage? Now, if you said the house with 1,416 square feet, you're absolutely right. So the question is why do we have such a difference in square footage? And I'll tell you why. There's two main reasons I could think of. First off, agents representing different companies just have no clue about how to figure out the correct square footage of a home, or what they're doing is they're adding in other areas of the home that were eventually added on, such as Florida rooms, screen lanais, carports, anything that they could possibly think of to make the square footage much bigger because, hey, bigger is better, right? So, I mean, if you're in the market for a large house, okay, those are the houses you want to be looking at, the ones that have the highest square footage, but it's not always true. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to correctly figure the square footage of a home and why it's important. So why is it kind of important? Well, obviously, if you want a home with a lot of square footage, especially if you're looking for a 3-bedroom home, because that 3rd bedroom, it takes up a lot of extra space. And where does that space come from? It comes out of the living area. So obviously, if you're concerned about the amount of space in the living area, this is very important to consider. I'm sure you've heard the expression like 1,300 square feet under air, 1,400 square feet under air. What do they mean by under air? Well, let me explain to you. Under air means any part of the house that has the central air conditioning or the central heating unit cooling or heating that particular area of the house. So for example, a carport is not under air, okay? This holds differently for manufactured homes versus, say, a regular stick-built home, because under air has to be what the manufacturer stated when they built the house. So for example, if the house that was made by the manufacturer was 1,200 square feet, that particular part would be under air. So such items such as Florida rooms or lanais or anything else that was built onto the house by a third party is not to be considered under air. So how do you determine the square footage of a house based on what the manufacturer says? Let me show you. Double-wide mobile homes are more notoriously misrepresented than single-wides, but I've seen a lot of single-wides that were kind of questionable also. So when you buy a double-wide mobile home, you're actually getting two titles. There's one for the A side and one for the B side. Now on the top of each title, okay, and you can see where I have it circled, that is the length of that particular side. On most double-wide mobile homes, the B side is going to be exactly the same length as the A side. So as you could take a look at this example here, the square footage of this home is 1,248 square feet, and that is the square footage provided by the manufacturer. Now, that is considered to be the true square footage under air according to the manufacturer. But sometimes you have to be careful, like on a home like mine, the B side of the house is actually 11 feet longer than the A side, which makes the square footage of my house 1,380 square feet. But I have seen this model represented a lot of times at 1,512 square feet because they're not taking into consideration the A side is 11 feet shorter than the B side. Now, the one thing the titles don't tell you is the width of the house, but that's not too difficult to determine on your own. If you're looking at a single wide home that was made back in the 1970s, odds are it's probably only 12 feet wide. The newer ones that they make today are generally 14 feet wide, but sometimes I've seen them as wide as 16 feet, but that's quite rare. On double wides, the most standard width, okay, is 12 feet on each side or 24 feet grand total. Now, there was one situation where I just saw a house where one half of the house was 12 feet wide and the other half was 14 feet wide. So yeah, sometimes you have to look at that very carefully, but that's not the norm, that's rather the exception. So my Florida room in the back of the house, it is not under air. I just have windows that open and screens like most do. But what would happen if I put a mini split air conditioner in there, or if I were to take air conditioning ducts from my current air conditioning unit and run them in there? Now, is that considered to be under air? The answer still is no, it's not, and I'll tell you why. Because that Florida room that I have is built on a cement pad. Just like lanais are, or carports, or any other type of additions, they're all built on cement pads. Now, your manufactured home can be moved if it has to be. Okay, so by the time you pull those two pieces out, what's left are items, okay, those particular rooms that cannot be moved along with your manufactured home. So what happens to those lanais, those carports, in those Florida rooms? Well, typically they get torn down and destroyed. That's the end of it. So what would be the proper way of advertising the total square footage in a house? Well, first off, if you're putting square footages on Trulia or Zillow or any, MH Village, any of the major websites, it's important to put up what the manufacturer states, not a combination of everything. So for example, if I were to sell my house, I would advertise it as 1,368 square feet under air. But if I have a 200 square foot Florida room, I could advertise this house at 1,568 square feet under roof. So there's a big difference, okay? You don't want to mislead somebody into thinking that they're getting more than what they're actually paying for, and that a lot of times that's what I see happening. You know, when a private individual lists their home up for sale and they misrepresent the square footage, that could usually be attributed to the fact that they just don't know any better. But when a so-called professional agent does the same thing, in my opinion, not only is it dishonest, but it's just downright deceptive. Again, this is one of the other reasons why I suggest using our website at 4starhomes.com when considering purchasing a manufactured home. This way, when you're looking through the listings, when you come across a home like this one here at almost 1,800 square feet, you can click on that and you will see the exact dimensions of the width and the length. And again, these dimensions are taken entirely off of the titles and not done by wishful thinking. I can safely tell you that most of the double-wide mobile homes that you look at are all going to be under 1,500 square feet. Now, obviously, there'll be a few exceptions, but when you start getting into listings that are showing 1,600, 1,700, 1,800, or even higher than that in square footage, you need to ask for proof. And how do you do this? Let me show you. Tell the selling agent that you would like to see a copy of the title or titles if you're looking at a double-wide. This way you could make sure that what they're advertising on their listing matches up with exactly what's on the titles. Now, if they give you some sob story like, well, we can't do that because of privacy laws, well, I think that's a bunch of malarkey, because if they're more concerned about protecting the privacy of the owner, they could go ahead and cover his name, or in this example that I'm using, I was able to delete all of that particular information. Now, if worse comes to worse and they can't do that, what they can do is they could go ahead and scan the title and then crop it so that only the top part of the title is showing, because this still gives you all the pertinent information that you need to confirm everything that was in the listing, such as the serial number, the year of the house, the make of the house, and obviously the size of the house. Okay, so let me summarize this for you. When you're talking about Florida rooms and lanais, in carports, in storage sheds, in workshops, in smokehouses, outhouses, birdhouses, it doesn't make a difference what it is if it was not put on by the manufacturer at the time the house was made, and if it can't be moved, okay, with the house, if you decide to move the house, it is not considered to be true square footage. Okay, now, it's perfectly acceptable for any agent to say, hey, the house, now again, this should be put into the description section. The house is 1,400 square feet, but you got a 400 square foot Florida room on there, bringing your total living space or your total square footage under roof to 1,800 square feet. Absolutely, that's perfectly acceptable. But again, it's important that you do your own due diligence. Don't go by what the agents are telling you, because many times they're wrong. And again, this is going to hold especially true when you're looking at these houses that are advertising outrageous square footages, okay? So again, do your own due diligence. Get the proof in your hand. This way you'll avoid disappointment after you purchase the house and you find out, hey, I just don't have all the room that I thought I did. Okay, so this was not a topic that I wanted to bring into light, but I see more and more of this all the time when I'm just glancing through houses on all the different websites. And again, I felt this was something that should be brought to your attention and something for you to consider when purchasing your manufactured home. So that's all I have on this topic, everybody. Thanks for stopping in. Lily and I will see you on the next video. Everybody, take care. Goodbye.